Hi, my name is Isadora, and I'm an artist currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from Georgia State in May of 2011, and I'm currently working a lot and showing as much as I can. My graduation gift in May was to travel to Paris for a week with my parents, and I took a bunch of photographs. Some of the street art that I saw, the graffiti, people would write on the sidewalk, "Regarde le ciel," which means look at the sky, in chalk. And it would just kind of make you take a moment, because you're in this very busy metropolis with lots of buildings all around you, make you take a moment to look up and acknowledge that you're part of the world, and there's other things going on beyond the city and beyond the street that you're on. So I had a show at Carroll Street with these prints, and then I have some of these prints up again in the vertical gallery, which is part of some lofts nearby. This was one of my projects for my alternative processes class. I used gum bichromate printing, which basically is using a transfer medium and then watercolors. I kind of started exploring this idea of like mythological creatures in the woods and their relationships to the trees, and sort of a reverse centaur where it's a pretty girl with a horse's head and worshipping this kind of mother tree god. One of the ideas that I had that I'm going to be working on in the upcoming months is going to be for a series of photographs involving this bag of doll furniture that I found at an old apartment. I'm going to take it around to some dilapidated buildings and some ruins of buildings that are around town, because Atlanta is a city that is currently shedding. In between the state where it was warehouse and where it will be really nice lofts, there's usually a period of time where there's a lot of graffiti and there's a lot of rubble, and it's just kind of dirty and gross. So I want to take this cute little pretty old doll furniture and pose it in these places and kind of make a false reality there. With illustration and painting, though, there's so much liberation and freedom, and I can make it whatever I want it to be. So I usually don't try to be super photorealistic. I'm more fantasy and more interested in monsters and pushing the limits and making up my own rules. I don't really like following other people's rules. I always was a black and white illustration artist when I began. When I was working at the Majestic, when I was devastated over a breakup, and I was drawing on the back of the checks that I wrote their orders on, and the monsters were getting weirder and weirder and everybody was disturbed, which is, I think, one of the best reactions that you can get when you're really excavating your soul the way that I was. And eventually I started adding in like one color, usually red, but then recently I kind of went this whole new route with painting where it was in full color, and it's not going to be true color because they're monsters. They don't have rules the way that the normal world has rules. But that was a new thing for me, a new boundary for me to cross. I'm participating in my 7th and 8th shows coming up in December of 2011. Not really sure why it's so therapeutic to me to have shows, but it is. So I'm going to be part of a group show at Beep Beep, and I'll be selling it during the Telephone Factory Art Loft sale. Both of those openings are December 3rd. The pieces that I'm submitting into the Alchemy show at Beep Beep in December are based on past relationships. It didn't begin that way. These pieces began as doodles and monsters, but eventually they became more personal. They're not finished yet. I'm going to be putting some text on them before I display them. And it's just another way that I represent, this is how I deal with issues, and romance always has issues. So it's like, I guess it's kind of like, don't fuck with me or you'll show up in a piece of art. Because that's what I do. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad, but it's always therapeutic for me to put it on display. One of the coolest things is when I have a painting that I sell to someone, and then, a few years later I get a phone call from another friend who doesn't know that person at all, but somehow through the chain of things ended up with that painting. That's really cool, thinking about my art kind of traveling in circles where I don't even know where it is, and I don't even remember necessarily all the pieces that I've made and given out, but they're still out there somewhere. I do have a website. It's IsadoraPennington.com, so You can look me up that way. I'm also interning at Beep Beep Gallery, which is in Midtown on Wednesdays from 12 to 6. I'm there most every week, so if you wanted to stop by there, I'll be there. And I work at Octane and Pizzole in Virginia Highlands. But you can also email me at Isadora Cody, ISADORACODY @gmail.com, or find me on Facebook.